that over to Administrator Lisa.
Thank you. Tonight, it is a tough act to follow. The
Yeah, wow.
students were awesome. But we have Matt DeRusa and Gary Syrak from, is it Syrak? Syrak Financial. I have known Matt for a bit of time when he worked at Alt Care, and then they recently took over our,
Group life.
yes, our group life benefits. What I really liked is the personal touch that Matt has brought to anything that we've dealt with. There's huge follow-up on his end, and the board's never looked at a different broker since before my time here, and I thought it was time to, bring a presentation before you all and give you something else to consider. So with that, I'll turn it over.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to get to know us a little bit tonight.
Thank you.
Again, as Lisa said, my name is Matt DeRusa. The gentleman passing out these folders to you is Gary Syrak. We are from Syrak Financial Services. It was a couple of months ago I had called Lisa, well, probably a little bit more than a couple months now, but I had called her about some of your benefits. We talked about your group life program. We're able to do some things there. And then through that, we started talking about the health plan, and that's what brings us here tonight. What I wanted to do in these green folders on the right-hand side, I've printed just a brief agenda, and I'll run through that. Behind that are a few slides I'll go through, and then I'll get to the things on the left-hand side there. So the first thing I thought I'd do is go through an introduction. I'll tell you a little bit about where we come from, what we do, explain a little bit more about Gary and myself, and then I'll go through our approach with employers and employees both. Talk about our services, and then you'll see the last thing on there is questions. It's on there last, but please, anytime I'm talking, just feel free to jump in and ask me anything, comment about anything. So, on the slides you have behind that agenda, Syrak Financial Services has been serving our local community for 61 years now. So over 60 years, we celebrated our anniversary last year. Had a big party at the Hall of Fame, actually. It was a lot of fun. But we've been around for a long time. The company was started by Stan Syrak, which was Gary's father, and we've always been in Canton. We actually also have our third generation Syrak in place now, Gary's nephew Jeff. A little bit about our community involvement on the next page. So we're a member of virtually every local chamber of commerce, Canton Rotary, Arts and Stark. Gary is on the board of directors of the Stark Community Foundation. We belong to the Builders Exchange and the Stark County Safety Council. We also we like to give back to the community, so we do things with Harvest for Hunger, Adopt a Family, Hope Ministries, amongst some other things. So we try to stay very active in this community. Gary was born and raised in Canton. I was born and raised in Canton. We like this area. I'm raising my family here. He raised his family here. So we try to stay very active around here. I don't have a lot else to say about the team other than, Gary you might not want to hear that he joined us in 1979.
No, I don't hear that.
But, so Gary has a lot of experience, almost 40 years of experience. I have 17 years of experience in the insurance industry. And as Lisa said, I worked for Alt Care. I joined Syrak 3 years ago. And I worked for Alt Care for the 13 years before that. I was your account executive, so.
And it's fair to say, knowing that you have a very good relationship, not just with Alt Care, but with all of the local hospitals.
Yes, we do. The difference now is I don't have to be the bad guy that comes out here and sits at the table and gives you a big increase. When we go out to our employer groups for renewals now, obviously we're fighting for the employer. I was on the other side of the table previously. But that experience gives me, I know what the carriers are thinking. And she's right, I have a great relationship with Alt Care, as does Gary, our entire organization. We had a meeting this morning with 2 reps from Alt Care, just talking about some different things that they have coming down the pipe, some things that we're doing. So we're in contact with those guys all the time.
And let me ask this question, because we talked, we renew in June. Typically, you know, it's come down to the wire, just on us getting the information back from the carriers. Do you feel that you're coming in at a good time? Are we too late? Should we wait a year? Or are we right on time?
I think you're fine. Because, number one, changing your broker isn't going to affect anything that All Care is doing as far as their renewal.
All Care has all the information. There's not
Yes.
a big swamp of information.
And who your broker is has no bearing on the numbers that they're giving you. Number two, it is right around the time, as I understand it, they are starting to send those renewals out a little bit earlier. So if you have that 2-3 months ahead of time, it's plenty of time for us to shop that to other carriers, to see what else the marketplace has to offer, and to talk to you folks to say, hey, you know, what do you like about this, what don't you? I know you offer a rich plan, and it's great. And so we'd like to get to know a little bit more about that and what you like about that, maybe what you don't.
I didn't want to show your plan to my employees. It's so much better than mine.
Yeah,
I mean, you really have a great plan.
it really is.
Yeah, it's like Cadillac, and
Yeah.
it's cool, and that's a wonderful thing.
But you would have the ability, you know, to look through it and make cost-saving type of recommendations for us too.
That's our job, yeah.
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 And how often would we be able to meet? Is it just at a mid-year review, or how often would I see you?
As often as you like.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, we're not far away, obviously, we're in Belden Village. And that's what I tell every employer, whether they are in Canton or whether they are in Columbus or however far away we have a client, you know, we will get together as often as needed.
So we could do quarterly reviews?
Quarterly, I think, is great, especially for a group this size. And obviously, we're available every day. In that folder, I put my business card in there, Gary has his as well, but I put my business card in there, and you'll notice on that business card, my cell phone's on there. And that's not just for you guys, and that's not a work-issued cell phone that I don't look at after 5 o'clock. That is the same cell phone number I've had for 10 years. It's, you know, the family plan that I pay to AT&T every month. I give stacks of those to every employer group that we have, and they can give those to their employees if they want.
Wow.
I really don't, I mean, that's what our job is. And now, I'm not saying if I'm sitting at a baseball game with my 11-year-old, I may not answer the phone in the middle of an inning, but I'll get back to them if they leave me a voicemail. You know, that's how we operate. So as far as contact, it's as often as needed. And as far as contact, and this is a little bit about, you know, I have a little bit of this on the next page under approach. I think you need to be in front of the carrier every 6 months at least. And if something else is going on, then more than that. You know, if there's a really bad claim, we need to talk to All Care or whoever the carrier would be about it. You know, just to make sure, is there anything we can do to mitigate this as it's moving forward? Now, you can't stop a claim from happening.
Right.
But what can you do to stop it from spiraling out of control? You know, there's things like that you
So you
need.
do that for large claims?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah. You have to stay on top of them. I've seen them, I saw them when I was at All Care. I've seen them in my, you know, what we do now. If you're not paying attention to the large claims and getting information, somebody goes to a doctor all of a sudden that they think is in network, it's not in network. There's a million different things that can happen, so you have to stay on top of those. Communication between the employer, broker, and the carrier, and the employee, for that matter.
So you would basically, like, we have All Care, of course, you would be like our fighter, you'd be looking at what we could change, shouldn't change, if there are changes, you're here to help us make sure that we're making the right decision. Is that basically what?
We work for you.
Yes.
And we become your, yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it, fighter. I mean, in essence, when our clients call us and we have a situation, I'll give you one we just had a month ago, we got a renewal that was a pretty high renewal from All Care. And we went back to All Care and said, this is unacceptable, and they said, okay, we'll take 3% off. And we said, that's probably not really gonna work. So we went out to market and found other quotes, got very competitive bids, went back to All Care and said, okay, you have 1 hour to decide what you wanna do, because we want this done. And we can either adjust your numbers and get back to us in an hour, literally, or we're gonna move to Anthem, which gave us a really good quote. And I will tell you that we didn't have to wait an hour. But that's kind of what we do, and so we're, you know, it's funny, they like us, but I don't think they really like us a lot, because we work them pretty hard on your behalf, and that's our job. Our job isn't to make All Care happy. I frankly don't care about All Care being happy. I do care about you guys being happy.
I can tell you the biggest frustration on this end, and I mean, it's probably geared more towards Lisa, but I mean, I've been here 8 years, and definitely the first 6, I was very hands-on it with the whole process, and the wasted sit-down times of, well, we got them at this. I can go back, see if we can get them a little. We don't want a bunch of wasted meetings. It's, okay, hey, here, maybe it's, here's where the initial comment, where they're coming in at, so we get a feel. Is it got a browbeat them behind the scenes? I want to know what the final result recommendation is, because, I mean, to Lisa's credit, she's extremely in tune with, you know, where those elements are that we can move and play with and affect. So, you know,
That
we
makes
haven't necessarily seen as much of the personal one-on-one. And I mean, the folks who have had us before, not that they have a bad reputation, but they're significantly larger. And I mean, from my own research, there's not as much of a personal service connection. And I've got that from a number of folks that I hold in high regard and respect when it comes to this.
And when I have to reach out myself, I go, gosh, we haven't had a mid-year review, can we have a mid-year review? I haven't heard from you, that's no problem.
That should, I really shouldn't work that way. We are your advocate, is the way it works. And we should be initiating the conversation.
Is there a contract? How do we create that relationship if the board was gonna go that way? How do we,
You basically sign a letter that makes us your agent,
okay,
and that's the contract. And the contract basically says we appoint Serac Financial as our agent, and then we work with All Care and we work with you, and we're right in dead center in the middle, and we start to work on your case and begin to put things together, and we'll come back with suggestions, recommendations, and different ways to approach this, because there's a lot of ways. I mean, we looked at your plan, and again, it depends how flexible you are, but you certainly have flexibility in what you're doing, and you have cost savings potential for sure, because you have a great plan.
and you'd be considered the township's agent, what's the wording for that?
Broker, agent.
Yeah, agent, broker. We would be the agent of record on your health plan, just like we are with the group life.
Okay.
And that's part of it. It's just paying attention to details. You know, when I called you, Lisa, about the group life, yes, those dollars are only a fraction of what you spend on your health care plan. But nobody ever looks at it. And it goes up 1 or 2%. And it does that for 8 to 10 years. And all of a sudden you're paying 15 to 20% more than you were a while back. And that only happened not because you had claims, but just because the carrier knows, well, I can bump it up 1% or 2%.
Yeah.
So we looked at it, and I think we saved, what, 34%?
Yeah.
You know, it's not huge dollar-wise, but percentage-wise, it's 34%.
One thing honestly, I was just thinking of, because I have to deal with our insurance renewals in my full-time work, and it's much different to where we're having to deal with our existing plan or look at ACA. When you go to bring, you know, if we were to do business with you, a renewal to us, could you as well give us an example what a comparable, if there is even such a comparable ACA plan? Because for me, I want everybody on our team, not necessarily all the public, but I want the folks on our team to understand the significant value that we do provide in the plan as compared to if you had to go out under an ACA and try to secure that type of coverage, whatever
Yeah.
would cost.
Well, we can look at fully insured rates. what
Yeah,
that would
that's what I
be.
was gonna say.
ACA would be 50 and under, so a group of this size, it would do it. But yeah, we can look at, you know, an outrageous deductible and on a fully insured plan, what that would cost, so,
Okay.
just to give them an idea.
Yeah, and, gosh, I had one other question. I think I lost it. I can't remember. Oh, yeah, you also could provide to the township, like, for the employees, like a financial wellness type of program and beyond just the traditional other ways to help our employees.
Yes, and we do, well, for specific to that financial wellness program, that's free. That's free to the employee, it's free to the employer. That's just an added service that we do. It's actually a really great program. It's geared towards people that don't typically think, I need to go talk to a financial advisor. And it gives them some basic finance 101. Hey, you should look at things in this order, in this way. It's a really good program. We can do that. And that's part of even just general education. You know, if we see in a year, hey, your emergency room use is kind of high. You know, maybe we come in and do a quick presentation to employees about, hey, this is why you want to avoid the emergency room. It's better for your costs, your employer's costs, all of these things. You know, we're open to doing that. We do those types of things with companies just to, because the better your workforce is educated on how the plan works and how they should use the plan, the better the plan's going to be cost effective wise as well.
We can also let Eric look at this. Is he coming in?
Yeah, he's coming in.
Okay, we'll have him look at it.
Yeah,
And-
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Things on the right side are just a little more detail about everything that we provide. I won't go through those, but just so you have them there. Full service financial part, so.
I will give you kind of a neat thing we do, and we're very rare in that. And we do retirement consulting. So what happens is we have so many companies that we insure, and we've done 401ks and administrated those for many, many years. But what happens is as the employee gets close to retirement, virtually, I won't say a huge percentage have no idea how this really works. And between Social Security, whatever they have, PERS, whatever their system is, they're at a loss, and they don't really have anyone to talk to. So what we did...
That's a huge help for our employees.
Yeah, and there's a lot of changes going on.
A ton.
With that too.
And so what I did about 10 years ago is I instituted virtually a free program. I said, listen, there's a whole lot of people out here that don't get this. I have really good people that have worked with me for many, many years. And so we set this up inside our company, and we literally make our services available. We don't charge fees. And we'll sit down with someone and say, okay, tell us what you got. We'll help you figure this out. And you know, if you need some help on the advisement side, we'll help you there. If there's investment thing, we can do that. But if not, we're okay too. And it works pretty well. I mean, I can tell you we have a huge amount of people that are tracking our way at this point in time because it's a very confusing landscape. And the fact that we do understand 401ks and we've been in the administration of that stuff is a big deal. And I just never felt comfortable charging fees, and that's because of my dad. You know, my father, when he set the company up 60 years ago, he basically, when I came in 35 years ago, we talked about it, and he said, you know, Gary, here's the deal. He said, if we help people, we'll do really well in life. And that's the game plan. I said, okay. Took me a while to understand what that meant, but once finally grasped it, it's a big concept, and we're still living with that, and I'm real comfortable. I tell people I'm skinny, but I eat all my meals. You know, we're doing just fine.
Yeah, that's, I appreciate you letting us know that, because that's a pretty important factor. It's not like we have people that are retiring all the time, but at least that they know something is available as they're looking out 3 years, 4 years. You know, it could help, because those things are changing so much today, and you know, the healthcares that our pension systems are offering are almost going away, and almost non-existent.
Correct. And I actually have there's a lady that's worked with me actually 37 years. So one of the first cases I wrote for health insurance was the city of Canton. God knows what I was thinking about, because it was a huge case and I really didn't have a clue what I was doing, but it took me about a year to figure this out, and I realized, now I knew how to run it. So I brought Linda Smith in, and she basically sat in the city 3 days a week and managed their claims. I didn't make a dime, but at least I kept everybody happy. But what I really learned out of that is Linda Smith's a wonderful employee, and she does all our Medicare supplements. So if somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm looking for a Medicare supplement, she knows how to shop the product, and Matt and I have used her exclusively. I know nothing about it.
Do you take individual, I mean, I
Yeah.
want to come as a client because I'm in both of these right now.
Yes.
So it's like.
And the answer is yes.
I need this real bad.
Yeah.
My
I mean, this is
in-laws
what
were
we
in
do for a
Brooklyn
living.
building 2 weeks ago, because they were asking me. I
It's very
said,
confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where
it
do you
really
go?
is.
Yeah,
You
because
know?
everybody comes to me right now, and I'm not the expert.
It's interesting,
And then,
you just
you
said all
know.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we take the liability off of you,
Yeah.
which is also kind of cool, and that's what we do for a living, so. So that's just another added benefit we bring to the table.
That's,
That's interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Do you have time to sit through the beginning of the meeting this evening? It starts at 6.
Sure, yeah, we can do that. I would just love a bottle of water.
Yeah.
If I can grab one of
I
those, I'm good.
need to ask you, so do you put.
In the conference room.
So, any other questions?
I'll
that's
see
good.
if I can type this.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Thank you.
Yes.
By the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Just curious.
I'm going to call the regular meeting of March 13, 2018 of the Wayne Township Board of Trustees to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. We do have the presentation of the agenda. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions?
Yes, Mr. President, I need to add new business number 3, Township Insurance Agent Broker.
Yeah, is there a number 2?
Oh, is that number 2?
Well, yeah, that would be number 2.
Oh, yep,
All
I
right.
already added it on my
All right.
agenda.
Township Healthcare Broker. Any others? Under concerns of trustees, I'm just going to do the annual Stark County Health Department report.
And then for number 2, put Tax Incentive Review Council. Number 3, SCOG.
Any other additions, deletions, editing, corrections? And based on that, with the additions, the agenda will stand. So the first item will be unfinished business, and I'll turn that over to Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to approve and authorize payment for C.R. Kurtz for the additional work to the heating system at the Diamond Sports Complex in the amount of $2,546.85 from Fund 01B05E.
So moved.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a resolution to enter into the attached service agreement between the Plain Township Trustees and Earth and Wood Products for the transportation and disposal of yard waste collected, and to authorize payments from Fund 01A26L.
I would so
I'll
move.
second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
I think as a point of clarification, outside of the Stark County Township Association meeting, the update that we received from Dave Pell, Director of the Joint Solid Waste District, this is the lowest price we can get anywhere for this disposal. I know on the initial, some of the numbers were anywhere from 2 to 2.25. So this is going to play in with our fixed funding that we've got, which, I mean, credit to the team for going down and actually helping get us a little bit of additional funding to account for that volume that wasn't being accounted for. Originally, I think this is the most fiscally responsible way to proceed forward with as far as for disposal. I know I was chatting with one of the Lake Township trustees tonight on the way here, and outside of, they're using Metcur's right there, but it's 3 miles and they're gonna haul it, grind it on site. And they're using it for their own product, and as we know from that presentation, there's not a whole lot of folks that can take this, so outside of continuing to explore other ways on how do we get more tonnage in those containers, which I know we're working on some collaborative opportunities with other townships and exploring.
Well,
It's just one of many financial elements to
Yeah.
help maximize the stretch of those dollars, because, hours, from hours changing to haulers to, we're gonna have to.
And I do want to go on record and say, Joe Icino and myself, we did look for another third-party excavator that maybe could take the product. There was none, and we did get some other quotes, and they were well above what we're receiving in this driveway. So we did our due diligence, and as a reminder, this isn't something the township at all wanted to do. If it was up to the township, the Worsler site would still be open, and we'd be at normal hours at the Easton site. It's something being imposed on us from the Joint Solid Waste District.
Well said.
And obviously, we have the future to look forward to next year because the funding's even going to be less, so.
25%.
Exactly, so
What is
we,
it, 25%?
yeah, it goes from 400,000 to 300,000.
Yeah.
So we've got to really pay attention. If we have to go back again and at least make our presentation to get what should be our fair share, based on what's going on around the county. Because we are extremely fortunate, first of all, that joint solid waste district is giving that 400,000 to mostly Stark County. As a matter of fact, Tusk, I don't think even
Task gets
has,
a little bit, Wayne gets nothing.
yeah.
Right.
So, when we went down to their meeting to approve this, again, Director Held made a really good presentation to their board. And, obviously they listened to us at the meeting that he was here at based on our concerns. And we got an additional close to $9,000
Yeah.
from what was originally presented. But again, our pitch was made in unknowns. We really don't know by closing that Worsler site whether we're going to see a huge impact
Which we probably will.
and strain on this site or what's going to happen. We're not sure. But
Well, we know 40% of our waste wasn't just gonna
it
disappear all of a
wasn't
sudden.
going away. It wasn't going to find its way in trash cans or anything else. Somebody's going to take that stuff somewhere. And because most of those people live in Plain Township, they're going to take it to the Plain Township site, the only one that's left now. So, and by the way, that is not restricted to only Plain Township residents. So, because we do take money from that, from those grants, the agreement is that anybody can use the sites. Now, we're going to.
No commercial dumping.
Correct.
Exclusion.
We've had to police that as well. We've had some other issues that we're looking towards. One would be an automated gate.
We applied for a grant for that.
And that obviously then would allow us for the opening and closing. We even found out that most of those gates are set up so that if you are back there at closing time and the gate automatically closes, there are sensors on the other side that allow that to open up. So, and that's been successful at other places. So, we're actually talking to all the other places as well as they are talking to us. We're getting several calls from the other places saying, so what are you guys doing to obviously try to do whatever you can with the limited amount of funds? So collaboratives, I mean, there's all kinds of things that we're going to be looking at, but we know full well that $100,000 more is going to be eliminated next year for that solid waste disposal.
Yeah, and if I can add to this, just that hopefully that our residents will be listening, that to be patient with us because there's going to be some adjustments. And in order to make this work, some people might get angry because the times may change, the days may not be as many, but for us to make it work, it's better to have something than for the whole thing to be taken away. And the only way we're going to make this work is by making that adjustment on setting different times, which used to be sometime from 7 days a week to maybe 3 days a week.
In the fall,
In the
yeah.
fall, so,
Yeah.
be patient, we're gonna make this adjustment, we're doing this adjustment for you because of the limited money that we have, if that makes sense.
No, that's well said, I think. Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes. All right, go to new business.
Thank you. For new business number 1, I'll turn that over to our zoning director, Tom Ferrara.
What we have before us, before you in the packet, is a resolution to set a public hearing to discuss the demolition of 2537 Rhone Avenue Northeast, parcel number 5215265, on Tuesday, March 27, 2018, at 6:15 PM.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Mathis is here, so
Yes.
you're all set with this then?
For the 27th?
Yeah, yeah,
Could be both of them, yeah.
yeah. So, okay, so you obviously know time, place, and location,
We're
date, and all
doing
of that. so-
6:15 at this
Yeah.
one.
6:15, yes.
6:15.
6:15. Is that what we're doing with this
You
one?
mean 5:15?
Well, yeah, the last one was at 5:15.
Yeah.
So do you want to do 5:15 or 6:15?
It'll be up to the board.
Deal with the month at the,
What's the other one, same time?
because we've got the follow-up update.
Get the
Right,
extra
let's do
spot.
it both at the same time.
5:15.
So how do we go about it?
Can we do that?
Yeah, you can just
We
change it
set
on
the
the
date.
resolution
We
and,
just set the date.
yeah,
So what? What are we doing?
5:15
How do we
hours.
correct this time frame?
Well, as long as it's corrected on the resolution, and then it'll be published in the repository with the correct time also. And Mr. Mathis, you're okay at 5:15 on the
Yeah.
27th, and we can do both?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what the appeal
Yeah,
is.
that kind of shortens up the time between the two,
That's
so,
what we did.
so 5:15. So is that a legal fix?
Yeah, Mr. Mathis is in agreement, so
All right.
we're good to go.
Thank you.
Did you change it on record? Has it been changed?
It's been changed, and
Yes.
then it'll be changed in the repository. Then item number 2 is the item I added to the agenda, is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to appoint Sirac Financial as the township's broker agent of record for the township's healthcare, and to further authorize the township administrator, Lisa Campbell, to sign the agent of record letter on behalf of the board of trustees.
So moved.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
I just look forward to the increased personal care, the communication, quarterly meetings, employee meetings. I'm very excited about this.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
we
you.
appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Personal touch. Roll call. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And that's the end of new business.
Thank you. That takes us to the fiscal officer's report. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. Fiscal Officer number 1 is a request for resolution to authorize payment of pending warrants in the amount of $127,721.68.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a request for resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a request for resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
I'll move on fiscal officer number
I'll
3.
second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And fiscal officer number 4 is the financial report for February. If there's any questions, I'm available after the meeting.
Thank you.
And that concludes the fiscal officer report.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. That takes us to the administrator again.
Thank you. I have a resolution to approve the printing, creation, and editing of the 2018 Plain Township Spring newsletter and to authorize payment.
So moved. Second. It has been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call?
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Second, I have a resolution to pay the U.S. Postal Service for the postage of the 2018 Plain Township Spring newsletter.
I'll move on administrator number 2.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call?
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
I have a resolution to enter into the attached agreement between Plain Township Trustees and the Kent State University at Stark for the 8-hour Crash the Barriers, Build the Team seminar.
So moved. Seconded. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call?
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
I have a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adopt the Plain Township Handbook revision for the attached general driving rules and regulations for Plain Township vehicles and personal vehicles operated on Plain Township business during work hours.
I will so move.
All second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Lisa, to clarify, this is part of our annual township liability insurance coverage policy update recommendations.
Yes, came directly from OTARMA, the risk management, as did the policy. Why create the reel when they have it written in the way that they want to insure you. I know that Eric has reviewed it, the department heads have. I'll do some training for the employees on it so that they understand the policy also. And we'll be doing the yearly driving record search on all employees, just not fire and CDL drivers, for all in township employees who drive at any time on behalf of the township.
Just puts a little more scrutiny in both ours and their liability.
Yes, and if you have somebody who, has a shaky driving record, anything over 6 points, they may get work privileges for driving, but the township may decide not to allow them to drive at work with that record. So it also implements that portion of the policy.
Anything else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Very excited to announce the e-waste recycling date for Saturday, May 5th. We've been getting a lot of calls in regards to any e-waste recycling. It'll be Saturday, May 5th from 10 to 4 p.m. This includes anything pretty much that you can plug in. Also batteries, power equipment, power tools, household appliances. Fluorescent light bulbs, however, do cost $1 a piece for the 4-foot bulbs, and 8-foot bulbs are $2 a piece. And there's $20 for CRT, TVs, and monitors. So basically, if it plugs in or works off a battery, it'll be accepted at this e-cycle. Yeah. Yeah, and again, that's just a $10 charge, so. And then, item number 6 is a resolution to adopt the Plain Township Handbook revision for the attached disciplinary records retention records section.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And that ends the administrator's report.
Thank you. That takes us to fire. Chief Schallenberger.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize the purchase of payment and shipping for firefighter personal protective equipment, particular hoods and washable gloves from Chief Supply in an amount not to exceed $18,000 to be taken from account 10A09G.
So moved.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Chief, this has to do with the whole upgrading and for cancer prevention, and part of this will end up being reimbursed for grant.
Yes, we received a workman's comp grant for about $14,000, and that will give me basically 2 hoods and 2 sets of gloves for every firefighter we have. That allows them to be washed, and et cetera, and they actually have a different layer of protection than our older hoods to let less soot, chemicals, toxins, get into your, around your face and your neck. So it's a great thing for workman's comp to, have a program you can go after that. And so we were fortunate to navigate through the paperwork to get to that grant, so.
Yeah, this is going on all around
Yeah.
the country. This issue is so big right now. So this is just one of those things from a preventative standpoint. So it's great. I'm glad you even looked that direction, because that's definitely what's going on within the culture right now. Anything else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize attendance and payment for the Fire Department Instructors Conference in Indianapolis, April 23rd to 28th. Include registration, meals, mileage, hotel, not to exceed $6,000 for Fund 10A, 15A.
So moved. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes. Thanks, Chief. That takes us to the road department. Mr. Iacino.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, item number one is info and discussion, the topic of the Stark County Cooperative Purchasing for rock salt this, for next year. There has been times during this year's that delivery was slow. After making several phone calls to either the delivery company or Cargill Salt, one thing than on the other. I prefer to stick with this program though. We've never ran out of salt. We were always had enough salt. I don't know where we go if we don't. We'd have to bid it on our own or go with ODOT, which sometimes their prices are higher. It's a different salt provider, and they will get their salt first before we get.
That's what we looked at a couple of
Yeah.
years ago. We took a little heat for paying a little more of a price, but price is no good if you can't get the material. That's what a lot of the other.
Yeah.
I'm sure Thursday evening you guys will be discussing this at that meeting, and I'm sure Friday you will too.
Well, do you think your salt techniques, with the spreaders and have helped, helped us where other townships who aren't implementing that, of course, they're running out of
We're
salt.
still
So
using 40% less salt than we have in the past. Now our brine truck's almost to the point of we're able to use it. So that's going to add to that too. Also, we get that out ahead of the salt, of snow, and that definitely help salt usage.
that could be a good topic for a future Stark County Township Association meeting that Joe and his team could present.
I can tell you there's some neighboring communities, as I was running the streets this morning, looked like they laid gravel down. There was so much salt on the road, so I'm sure there's some lessons to be learned.
I think I'm good based on your recommendation. Stick with this. I think you're on top of it. I mean, there's multiple reasons why we were able to do what we did. And, our storage facility, I can go on and on.
Well, if we had more storage, we would have no problem.
Correct.
Because we would have bought it all at the beginning of the year.
Correct. So, I'm comfortable with it. No.
Item number 2 is a resolution to direct the Plain Township Highway Superintendent to place an advertisement for bid for road materials. The newspaper published in Stark County in general circulations on March 22nd and 29th, and the bids to be received on April 12th at 12:30 p.m.
So moved. I'll second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Joe, you want to explain a little bit about just, how you look at streets and all of that kind of stuff?
This one here is for the materials that actually the road department uses, the asphalt, the stone, the pipe and everything. So we bid these, our best price, and they're solid for a whole year from here on out.
So that would be gravel.
Gravel, limestone, asphalt, and we'll get prices for delivery and pickup, so we get our best price, so we don't have any fluctuation in prices. So,
Anything else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution to authorize the purchase of brushes for street sweepers from United Rotary Corp. not to exceed $3,253.02.
So move on road 3.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded, discussion. He moved on that very
Yeah,
fast.
this is Mr. Lino's favorite.
Yeah, favorite time of year. Get them all
And this is
cleaned up.
for, these are different brushes for both our sweepers.
Correct.
We have 2 different kinds.
Joe always gets there on a prompt time and gets done at a prompt time.
And that helps us with our EPA report also. We report how much we've swept up that we've kept out of the lakes, rivers, and streams, so it is very important.
Okay. Anything else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Item number 4 is a resolution to enter in agreement with IBI Group to acquire additional drainage easements for the Linford Avenue Drainage Improvement Project not to exceed $6,000.
So moved.
Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion. This is a new history for us, right?
Right.
Yeah.
When they first quoted us, there was always this possibility of this coming to this point. But we moved some of the drainage area, and what we're gonna do is probably not gonna cost us this much money. We still have one more resident to negotiate with, and this will give us the ability to negotiate to see what we can do. I talked to Garrett Connors yesterday, and he said it's no problem with what I suggested to do with the pipe to move it on the other side of the street, so.
Which takes us down to 2 property owners.
Well, the one already said they would sign.
Correct.
So we have 2 that said did, but we're gonna eliminate the one and have one more to do.
There's 2 that
There's 2 that said, one said they want more information, the other one said
Emphatically, no.
emphatically no. So that's the one we're gonna eliminate.
Okay, good. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And item number 5 is a resolution to direct the Plain Township Highway Superintendent to place an advertisement for bid for the Plain Township 2018 paving and road repair project in the newspaper in Stark County of general circulation on March 29th and April 5th, and to be received on April 19th by 1:30.
I'll move on road 5.
Second.
Mr. Lino?
I'll move and seconded, discussion.
Are you anticipating as many miles?
Yes, you should have got an email from Teresa today with the streets on the list, and that's pretty much what we're gonna go with. We always have that right to increase or decrease depending on prices. Hearing the prices are gonna stay maybe lower.
So asphalt's down a little bit.
We'll find out here in another
Well,
month.
let's keep our fingers
But,
crossed.
yeah, but we're right at 17 miles, and then we got some curb and gutter we need to
We
replace.
did 17 plus last year.
17.4, so we're in that area.
It's 10% of our road miles each year, so a 10-year replacement cycle as compared, we were pushing 17 to 19
Yeah,
before.
exactly.
So this will be
We're getting
year,
caught up. It's gonna take,
this is year 3 of,
yes, this is year 3 of the 17 plus miles per year.
Good. Anything else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing from zoning, that takes us to parks.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda tonight for Parks is the Board of Trustees to authorize payment to Pioneer Athletic in the amount of $6,700 from Fund 14A05C to purchase paint for the fields, and what it doesn't say here is also some supplies for the ball field.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a resolution for the Board of Trustees to accept the quote and to approve and authorize payment from Central Farm and Garden in the amount of $2619 from Fund 14A05C for the purchase of fertilizer and for the fields at Diamond.
I'll move on parks 2.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution for the Board of Trustees to accept the quote and to approve and authorize payment to Central Farm and Garden in the amount of $398880 from Fund 14A06B to purchase supplies for the fields, ball fields at Diamond.
Parks 3?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And finally, tonight, just some information and a reminder to our public that we will have our extravaganza on Saturday, March 24th from noon to about 2:30, just depends on when the crowd dissipates. We'll have CompU kids from the Sheriff's Department, we'll have plenty of eggs and then some. We have a new quadrant added for a pre-K school group, which will help to kind of divide that up. And we've got a new plan, partly because we want to spread them out more, and partly because we have growth blankets to the east of the oil well down right now, trying to recover some of those goal miles before the start of our soccer season in less than a month. So we're going to push into the middle of the fields where we're a little safer, a little wider, and can stretch it out a little more.
Any questions?
No, but Rob did create a color run for this Easter egg hunt, similar to like what happens at the Plain local schools. So the kids will have a chance to run across the field as people are throwing cups of color. To, how you dye the eggs, now you're kind of dyeing the kids, which is kind of neat. So very good idea, and I think kids will love that, and parents remember to bring something for them to sit on the way home.
It is completely water soluble, so no permanent damage.
Yeah.
Mr. Lehman, do you want to participate? Because I can get you a bib.
He's actually going to be the Easter bunny.
Those goggles on. All right, that takes us to communications, Ms. Cassidy.
Thank you. I have a communications from Stark County Regional Planning. They're looking for public input on the Hall of Fame Land Use Transportation Study that was funded through the Federal Highway Administration's Everyday Counts grant. They're having the first of 3 meetings, being on Tuesday, March 20th, from 5 to 7 p.m. at McKinley High School. So it gives the public a chance to look at the ideas that they are leveraging to enhance connectivity, walkability, smart technology, and development. And then item number 2 is a very nice letter to our fire department. You'll see the picture of the couple there also. And it reads, Dominic made sure all 3 of the paramedics would be together when he came in to shake their hands and thank them for saving his life. He and his wife were very emotional when he expressed that the doctor credited the quick response and EMS skill and protocol for such a positive outcome when he experienced a cardiac event and 911 was called. And they say, thank you from the bottom of my heart. We will be eternally grateful for your service. Dominic and Linda Demanjani. Did you want to expand on that when they received the call?
Yeah, they responded to this gentleman's house and they got him out to the ambulance, and then he actually, basically his heart stopped. And they got him back right there in the driveway and transported him, and one of those called quick, got there quick kind of things, and real nice gentleman, and his wife came over, made some homemade cookies, the whole thing, and the 3 gentlemen in there is Matt DaCosta, Alex Hilton, and Drew DeSimone. So kind of got a veteran and a couple of newer guys, so they all work together good.
And as skinny as those guys are, they can probably.
Yeah, they can use some
calories.
Cookies I'm gonna
So
a lot of energy there.
Yeah.
All right, good job.
Yeah,
Excellent job.
That's the end of communication.
Okay, that takes us to the portion of public speaks. If there's anybody in the audience that wishes to address the board, now is the time you have the ability to do that. We only ask that you give your name and address to our fiscal officer for the record. Anybody in the audience? Anybody?
You searching?
Yeah. All right. Okay, so we do have some concerns of trustees. I will start on number 1 with the Health Department annual meeting. I guess as the part of the board president's responsibility is to attend the annual meeting of the Health Department organizational process as a part of their, thank you, as a part of their requirements. It was my first attendance at that, and I will tell you, actually I learned a lot. So much so that I think it would be kind of nice, and I'm going to go over just a couple quick hitter issues. I think it would be kind of nice if maybe we had somebody from the health department come and give us more of the Reader's Digest version of their presentation in terms of all their separate departments, what they actually do, how much they're involved in, and you know, a lot of the programs that, I mean, they're involved in so many different issues. But in addition to that, we are going to see an increase. Personally, I mean, none of us want to see increases in anything, but if we have to have increases, this would have, for me, this is the right way to do it, because that first increase is not going to come until the year 2020. So what they've given us is a period of time that we can look at it, figure out how we're going to do that, and the percentage increase is going to be 2%. But it's going to be 2% over a period of 5 years. So, and I'm sure he'll explain all of that when he comes in a lot better detail. But we're going to see a 2% increase. When we went in there, they all had, we all, as the members of the health department, we all had our separate envelopes with our specific numbers. So I have a copy of that. Specifically, we're paying $185,606 right now, and then starting in the year 2020, that's going to increase at a 2% rate. And then at that point, they're going to shut that increase off for a while. Not really sure how long they'll shut that increase off, but you know, just the mere fact that we're paying $185,000, I think it would give our residents a good opportunity to at least see a quick representation of what our money does get us. There are so many things that they're involved in. One of the big issues that they can kind of proudly hang their head on now is their accreditation. There is an accreditation requirement for funding, and by a certain year, if they are not accredited, they will have to merge with somebody else. There's a very complicated process. They are the 179th accredited health department in the United States, the 17th in Ohio, and the 1st in Stark County. And there are 4 health departments in Stark County. So, you know, I think that shows, you know, the collaborations of who they did this with, getting back out to their partners. But there are so many issues that, you know, that annual meeting does. We have to elect officers, and I learned that you definitely want to be at a meeting if you don't want to serve as an officer. So I will truly attend those for sure, or one of us will. But the current issues that they are involved in right now are certainly the opioids, mental health issues, the suicidal rates that we are seeing, you know, childhood injury prevention. They're getting a lot of grants. He presented some legislation that's going on right now. One of the other things that I guess I didn't realize, and maybe nobody here did, was they are required to provide a certain amount of school inspections. And our contribution, as all the other communities that contribute their share to the health department, helps pay for those. So, you know, what we do here pays for those inspections that go on for those schools that are in Plain Township, and so on and so on and so on. And I think there were a lot of, Scott was there, and I think he would agree, there were a lot of people in that meeting that didn't realize that. So, it's not a lot of money, but it's that thing that, you know, it's also getting us back to our school partners for what we actually pay for. So, I would rather somebody from the health department kind of give that, so if you have any specific questions, anything else you can think of that I missed?
No, that's a good summary, and I mean, kudos to the health department when it comes to the funding mechanism and looking at the formula and so forth, because it was brought up by former Osnaburg Township trustee to bring this out early so we can have discussion as they're looking through how exactly that formula is going to be calculated. Instead of right at the end, here's your number, and we're going, wait a minute, because I think we've all been here long enough to know that there are other townships that have legal representation that sometimes get behind this and try to rally the other townships, villages, and municipalities to contest funding at all. So there's significant value-add services there.
Okay.
Mr. Hawes, first thing I have is an update. I attended our annual tax incentive review council meeting on Monday at 1 o'clock. We've got 2 properties that fall under this. The first is the Neander Hospitality Group. They've been at this, I think this is year 3 or year 4. Short as they have continued to fulfill and exceed their obligations in exchange for the tax incentives that they're receiving. This is even in light of, I hate to call this out, but from 2016 to 2017, they saw about $183,000 reduction in room revenue, and they were still able to keep the full-time, the part-time numbers, not just what they committed to, but above that. I think that's important in the grand scheme of things. The other one that we had was One Easton Company, which translates to the Shops of Oakwood Square, which is sitting right behind us because they are very much in their early stages of the renovation. So there's really nothing there to report out as far as meeting their numbers on job creation and so forth. Next year will definitely be a different situation there once Drug Mart's in some of the others. So if anybody's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. The second one was I had our SCOG membership meeting, to which I'm the executive committee representative from Plain for the overall. We met March 6th. Probably actually the most exciting update for the first time in the 8 years that I've been involved. There is absolutely no backlog, whether we're talking ballistics or, say, drugs. So to the crime lab director's credit, she goes, instead of calling it a backlog, can we just call it, a log update or something? Because unfortunately for a number of years there was always that backlog, but they've done some things to make investments that SCOG has approved, whether it's the executive committee or the general membership there. They've worked through some lab accreditation, and then countywide dispatch. Joe Concato gave a quick update that Canton's actually back on as of February 12th, so now all parties are now on. Specific to the CAD system, they've got a maintenance agreement in place through 2021. Then we heard from Stark County Sheriff's Deputy Major Darrell Anderson regarding the county radio system update. He indicated that all 12 tower sites are under contract, still on track to have the system up and running by January 1st. Again, just highlighted the $806,000 grant through the fire marshal for the smaller fire departments, and they are getting very close to having the March contract close to finalized. So some of the other meetings that are going on behind the scenes is hiring with the chiefs, is they're working through the top group meetings. So those are the meetings Joe Concato and Darrell Anderson said, if you're looking to catch up some sleep, just want to know what goes into this. It's critical steps, but yet, you know, for somebody who doesn't deal with it all the time, inner workings like John did as chief and Chuck's dealing with, it's critical, remember, critical planning. And then, actually, there was we're gonna be working through a 10-year funding plan for SCAR as it expires 2019. So there's gonna be a review of the agreement to be done, so we can work towards that new funding agreement. Likely gonna see an increase in the rate to the townships due to the cuts in the the undivided local government funding. And, you know, one of those, one conversation that we had that was brought up was, most folks think of it as the crime lab, but there's a lot of other ancillary services that are of value, so how are they going to help justify any type of increase that's going to be brought up? So those were the primary things from SCAR.
Very good, thanks.
That's all I have. Any questions? Anybody? Thanks, Scott. That brings us to the approval of minutes for February 27, 2018, and I will move on that resolution. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes. We do have a need for an executive session. Be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 6:47 on March 13th as authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose of the consideration of 1B, employment of a public employee or official, 1D, discipline of a public employee or official, 1F, compensation of a public employee or official, and number 4, preparing for, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees. So been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?